Hi, I'm Leeza. I'm an international transformation specialist. And today we're talking about something that is really important. It's actually essential to our well-being. And it's something that quietly erodes our energy, it impacts our relationships, and it can even destroy our dreams. And that is the cost of hiding who we really are. So we live in a world that actually rewards performance over truth, over the truth of our own being. But over time, masking those parts of ourselves, hiding that way, it doesn't protect us. It actually disconnects us. And today I want to invite you to see authenticity, which is what we're talking about, not as a risk, actually just the opposite. I'm inviting you to see it as the foundation for a life of freedom and of clarity and of deep belonging. So let me ask you this, see if this resonates at all. Have you ever walked away from a conversation or situation and you have felt unseen? Even though you said all the right things, you did all the right things, but nonetheless, there's that sense inside of like, something doesn't feel right here. Or have you felt like you're living someone else's version of success? Like you've ticked all the boxes, you've done what society says is going to get you someplace, and maybe you've even arrived, but you're still feeling empty inside. That is the hidden cost of inauthenticity. It's living a different person than who you really are and how you feel inside. And today we're going to talk about why your voice matters, why your truth and your experience matters, why you matter. Literally why you matter. And you do not have to keep hiding in order to be loved. And that's not a message that we hear very often. So that's why we're talking about it. And the way that I've learned to define authenticity is being congruent. It's the resonance of within me and outside of myself, how I'm feeling, what I know about me, and how I'm living that out in the world. Okay, so when we spend so much time trying to fit in and we try and please other people or we perform and present ourselves in a certain way that we think keeps us safe, something happens inside. We can do that for a while, but with time, we actually lose clarity and we forget what we want and stop trusting our instincts and what's driving us because we're actually being directed from external circumstances. Even though we're doing it, we're taking direction and instructions from outside of ourselves. And so then suddenly it's not just other people that we're putting a facade on with, we're actually being untruthful to ourselves. And that's what really erodes our sense of self. And clarity comes when you pause and in any situation or relationship or conversation and you just take a breath. You say, what's true for me? And if no one agrees, what's true for me? Right? So authenticity starts with daring to see yourself clearly without judging yourself. And that's a whole different subject, which I'll be happy to speak with you all about. But starting with seeing yourself clearly and fairly and kindly, that's the first step. Okay. So now let's talk about how it feels when we are not taking responsibility or ownership. So let me explain that a minute, right? When things aren't going our way, or we get accused, or things don't feel good, where we're having friction with our environment, it's so easy to say they did this, or it's because of that, and we blame the environment, the culture, we blame our parents or our family, or how we grew up, our childhood, or even the how should I say, the expectations, like what we're told we need to do. So it's not that those things didn't happen. Maybe people told us how we should be and all those things took place. But the question is, are we taking ownership for how we're now responding? Like as young children, we probably didn't have much of a choice. We had to do what we were told, right? Or even in school, right? We had to perform in order to get the grade or get the diploma or whatever it is. But if you're listening to this, you have the right and actually the self responsibility, if you will, to take ownership of yourself, to take ownership of how you're going to respond to all those pressures and those external judgments and what you're going to do with that. So when you recognize that no one else can give you permission to be real, just like no one else is forcing you to be unreal or be inauthentic, you recognize that you have total power, that you're sitting in the driver's seat of your experience. And when you're in the driver's seat of your experience, then you're in the driver's seat of your life, literally. And so owning your voice and owning your needs and your dreams and your desires, even if they are messy or they're not complete, or they can be misunderstood or people will disagree with them, you still get to own them. That's not being selfish. It's actually an act of self-respect, right? Because you wake up with yourself every morning. You're in this body, only you're in there, right? And so you get to decide how you're going to live your life. You have the right to own your experiences and own what motivates you and what gives you direction. So the more you practice standing in your truth, the less you will feel the need to explain or defend it because it feels right. So let's look at now how painful it can be when we're inauthentic. And so what I mean by that, I'm not talking about physical pain, but really discomfort. And over a long time, it can really turn into a lot of difficulties in our lives. So the pain of inauthenticity comes from this gap between, as I said earlier, who you are inside and who you're presenting to the world. And that discomfort, that pain of inauthenticity, it dissolves when you resolve to close that gap. When you make a choice, a commitment really to yourself, not to change for other people and not to ask for permission, but that you commit to yourself to be who you are with all the bumps and bumbles and everything that you do and I do. We get to be who we are and own that. And when we bring those discrepancies together of how we're feeling inside and who we're being inside, and we share that with the world, it feels so much better. And then there's a congruency. So when you're allowing yourself to be fully known, first by yourself and then the world, things get a lot more satisfying. So I'm going to give you an example. Imagine that you go for an interview for a job and you really want this job. And so you've read up on the company and you've read up on the position and you go in and you think you're qualified, but you're not quite sure. But boy, you can make it look that way. And you come up with answers and ideas and all these things, and you don't show any kind of lack or any any of the pieces that maybe you haven't polished for the position. So you're not being completely authentic. I know this is counterintuitive of what you learned, but just hang with me a minute. So you present yourself really polished, perfect, right? And you get the job. Most of the time, then, people that, and I'm an executive coach, so I deal with a lot of people and leaders. Most of the time, when people then walk into the job, they have the sense of being an imposter or they're going to be found out because they've put up this front. So when you're accepted with a false front, if you will, even if it's a small, narrow gap of false front, it's uncomfortable because you know who you really are. Now, here's the other example. Let's say that you go into that job and you share with them, there's certain aspects of this position that I'm not yet expert at. But man, I am so committed to learning and I so love this company because of XYZ. And I will be an employee you're going to be grateful to hire. And I'm going to brush up and learn. I'd love to have a mentor. I'll go do the work, whatever it is. And then you get the job. You're going to have a totally different experience in that position because now you've been authentic. And now you have the job and you don't have a doubt, they hired you for who you are because you have been congruent inside and out. Okay? So that resolution, that congruency between inside and out is really huge. So you don't have to be perfect. You just need to be true to yourself. And when you align that inner world with your outer expression, the piece that follows is unreal. It is so comforting. And I'm speaking from experience. So let's talk about excellence. And I take a little sigh there because it's a word, interestingly enough, that a lot of people bristle at. In today's world where everything's very fast and just get it done, put it up quickly, rush through it, to take time or to be committed to excellence isn't cool. It's not in. I don't know what the words are, Dave, but it's not the thing, right? But when you want that excellence, when you are committed to that kind of excellence in yourself, it is not about impressing others. It's about living in alignment with your value system and bringing your highest and best, your highest potential to the forefront. So It's not about performing. It's showing up as you really are. And this is the interesting thing. When you start living more authentically and in congruency with yourself, you're going to start recognizing your value. You're going to start feeling your value. And you're going to start bringing that to the table more often. And that's when your potential really makes an impact and people are going to recognize it. You don't have to perform. And even if they don't recognize it, you're still living according to your own standard of excellence. Your energy becomes cleaner. You become more, um, I don't know if it's magnetic, but people will recognize that, boy, there's just something really powerful about this person in their being. And you don't even have to do anything other than being yourself. So you're not wasting energy in trying to hold up a mask or hiding yourself. It's a lot less energy and it's a lot less frustrating and difficult, right? I saw a bumper sticker once that said, when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. It's kind of like that, right? When you're being yourself, you don't have to worry about anything because it's so natural. So you direct all of your strength into what really matters, and that's what you're moving toward. And you can build a life and a career and relationships that are rooted inside of who you really are and in your own value system. So that's what creates lasting success is being who you are. So one of my phrases, my company Core Success, right? One of my phrases is that you don't achieve success, it's who you are. This is what I'm talking about. So being who you are brings a fulfillment that an achievement alone just simply cannot bring. All right. So let me offer to you an activity, something that you can take away with from this video today and that you can practice and see how it goes for yourself. I think that I think that you'll find some richness in it. So here it is. Note one moment this week, either at work, pick a place, work or home or social situations where you feel that niggle to hide, where maybe your natural inclination to speak or to share or maybe to be quiet, whatever your natural inclination is, and you feel tempted to shrink away from that. You don't want to do it, or you're forcing yourself to perform where that's really not what feels natural to you. You don't have to change it, but I'm inviting you to take a pause and ask yourself this question. How would I feel if I were being my honest and authentic self here? That's all. You don't have to say it out loud and you don't have to change anything. But start to notice in different situations, and this week just pick one, and next week you can pick another. You can do it as often as you want. How would I feel? And start to recognize the cost of being inauthentic and the benefit of being authentic. Okay? You don't have to shout it out loud, you don't have to force it. So just recognizing that. And honoring your truth silently is already an act of courage because you're becoming aware. And awareness is the first step of any kind of change. So every moment that you practice this truth, it rebuilds a bridge back to yourself and it strengthens that connection. So if this message helped you remember that your real self is not at risk when you're being authentic, but your real self is actually your greatest strength, go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you'd like more and share it with someone who maybe is ready themselves to come home to who they are. And if you're ready and you want to live and lead and love more from this place, I invite you to check out the resources that we have here on the screen and programs that are linked in the description below. You do not have to perform in order to live your life or to be lovable. You just need to be you. I hope that was helpful. Take care.